Hey Simon, how are you?
Good, thank you. I can't speak Spanish.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Noela's gonna translate hopefully the interview. Actually, I'm quite excited you came here to Valencia because it's good to have somebody that I respect a lot, and to enjoy a practice that has everything in it, that respects the concept of yoga and whatever this practice means for all of us who are deeply into it. So yeah, thanks for being here. First time in Valencia.
Yes, it's my pleasure, my honor to be here, and for me it's a privilege to be working with you because I wholly respect what you do and how you practice.
Oh, thanks a lot, Simon.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just had really nice practices yesterday and today, and tomorrow as well, and tonight as well. And we had quite a nice conversation in the car about what's the true purpose of yoga. So we are talking about some scientific investigations, and also the relation between the scientific investigations with the ancient practices of yoga. So you were telling me, about the importance of find chemical balance inside us, and we can reach this chemical balance by applying correctly these tools of yoga. So please tell me again what you told me in the car.
I'll do my best.
All right.
Okay, the way I see yoga, which means union or connection, I think based on the understanding of yama and niyama, the precepts of yoga, then what we're trying to do in our yoga practice is recognize that our individual consciousness is one with the universal consciousness, to basically recognize this very simple thing, that we are connected as one family on the earth, that we're connected to the earth, that everything connects to everything else, which is what modern day physics says, that everything is interconnected. And to really recognize this, you only have to flick a switch in the brain and say, I realize it. But to feel it, it's something you have to experience personally. And so to make that happen in your life, I think you have to practice it on your mat to a certain extent. So to get a sense of connection within your body, I think you're looking for two things. One is a sense of energy moving through your body, and that can be simply stated by saying, I want to get blood moving through my body more easily, and information wants to flow through my body too, but the only information that makes sense is the information that you can transmit to people, because information is for transmitting a message. And sometimes I think when we're talking to someone, if you shout at them and you tell them what you want, they don't really receive your message. You have to talk nicely to someone before they listen to you. So any message which is not given in a loving way does not really do the job of giving a message. So I think the important communication that we have to do inside our body is loving communication. Communication which conveys a message of care, trust, friendship, love, like this. And this, on a physiological level, is the information that predominates in the parasympathetic nervous system. So if I say it in a hippy-dippy way, I can say yoga is about sharing energy and loving information inside your body as a model to do that in your life. But if I had to say it scientifically, I'd say make your body exercise in a way where circulation increases while really allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to predominate and not the sympathetic nervous system dominating. Sympathetic nervous system is commonly called the flight or fight response, and it's what normally gets triggered if we have situations of danger where our life's threatened. At the times of flight or fight, our heart rate goes up, we breathe more than normal, we feel tension inside our body, and this is okay for maybe about 1% of the time in our life. It keeps us healthy, but any more than that, it will start to turn off the functioning of our body, which is the parts of our body trying to help us live long. The parts of our body that help us live long are our digestive system, our immune system, our reproductive system, and these are the parts of the body that help you absorb food, eliminate waste, absorb nutrients, digestive system, help recover from injury, help heal from sickness, that's your immune system. And the reproductive system is that which maintains good hormone function, good fertility, good sexual function, but also, very importantly, the function of the body's ability to regenerate. So when cells die, they have to be reborn. And so to have fresh skin cells, fresh tongue cells, fresh digestive system cells, fresh brain cells, because all the cells in the body will die, and if they're not reborn, if they're not regenerated, then you get old. So old people who are healthy are the ones who have really soft, baby-like skin, even in their 60s or 70s. But there are many people in our modern world who look fit, look slim, look strong, but their skin is like leather, their skin is old. And the skin is the oldest organ. If we can keep that young, I think we stay a lot younger. Have the skin of a baby. Now, to encourage that, you need to have the parasympathetic nervous system dominant inside your body, and that's the information that travels that says you're okay. There's no threat. You don't have to feel stress. There's no fear, no anger, no aggression. You can trust everything around you. Now, to have that message subconsciously, you have to create that environment within yourself. And the problem is most people's exercise actually does the exact opposite. Whenever your heart rate goes up in exercise, you stimulate flight or fight response. Whenever you feel tension or stretch inside your body, flight or fight response goes up. Sympathetic nervous system dominates. Whenever you feel excessive thinking inside your brain, flight or fight response dominates. If you can have a really calm body, then it's a little bit like going to sleep. Sleep is very restful, and that's very regenerating for us, but it doesn't make us strong, it doesn't move energy inside the body. If you just lie in bed all day, for a couple of weeks, you just atrophy. You have to use your muscles, you have to use your body, and you have to move blood. So the two of them working together is what's going to give perfect health. It's like a person who can run fast, do 100 backflips in a row, exercise what looks like exercise to someone else, but it must feel as relaxed as sleep. And if you can get both happening at the same time, it basically defines a fit, flexible, strong person. But what we're getting usually is people doing exercise. I'm talking about gym exercise and most modern yoga. They're doing exercise which is actually might make them stronger, might make them more fit, but because they're experiencing stretch, tension, heart racing, breathing more than normal, they might move energy through their body, they might exercise their limbs, but they're actually killing the predominance of that loving information going through the body, and they're overstimulating the flight or fight response, which will in turn turn off their longevity devices, the immune, digestive, reproduction function. And then once that happens, then the exercise is only going to give short benefits. It won't help you live long. So the art will be then to allow yourself to get flexible without feeling stretch, to get strong without feeling tense, to get blood flow without your heart racing, to get oxygen to your cells without breathing so much, to create intelligence in your cells without thinking so much. That sounds like a bunch of opposites. How can you do such opposite things? Get flexible without stretching, get strong without being tense, get blood flow without heart racing. You can do it, but the ways of doing it are the ways of real Hatha Yoga. And unfortunately, most of these ways are lost. And I've been lucky enough to have really good teachers, and slowly, after 50 years of practice and 35 years of teaching and 25 years as a physiotherapist, I've started to understand what it is that allows real yogis to do these very seemingly opposite things. For the yogi, for example, on the Himalayan mountaintop, to sit naked in the snow and still, while being naked with the heart hardly racing or hardly moving and hardly breathing and not tensing muscles, they're able to generate enough heat to melt the snow around them. To be that type of person. But how do they do it? And the techniques we use this for are what I'm teaching, which are simple things like moving actively from the core with natural breathing and fluidity, which is a whole story by itself. But once you do this, what you start to get is this massive energy and loving information coming through the body, and it becomes akin to the state of meditation. And it becomes a dynamic meditation usually then. It's very difficult to really meditate the way the Tibetan yogi does on the hill, to really be totally still and yet still generating heat. Many Westerners are capable of being still and relaxed and keep their mind still, but they're not generating energy. They're not really demonstrating massive tumo, heat generating, you know? So to do that's quite rare. But if you could do it, you get tremendous powers. And what they've done is they've studied long-term meditators and found their brainwave patterns are very similar in these very powerful places to what has recently been shown to happen in people who take psychedelic drugs. So psychedelic drugs, I'm talking about things like ayahuasca, LSD, psilocybin from magic mushrooms and things like this, and the other DMT, psychedelic drugs, stuff like this, which this sort of medicinal intoxication, we could call it if you like, or medicinal treatments, are done in all the cultures all around the world.
Well, Patanjali, he says you can get samadhi from Raja Yoga, from Ashtanga Yoga, you can get from chanting the pranava, the Om, or consuming sacred plants.
Yes, yes.
So.
It's good. So when I was a teenager, I was lucky enough to have a Tibetan Lama who looked after me for a year or so, and he said to me that when he was in Tibet, he was given these sacred plants, and it said, which were psychedelic drugs basically, and he said it helped him open doorways in his brain that helped him see the path he had to go on. And he said, but once these doors were open, he knew where the doors were, and then he could find them by himself.
So you experiment the state, so then you can replicate.
Yes. And so what they've recently found, because recently the experimental research on psychedelic drugs has now been allowed again in the last 10 years. They banned it for many years. It was being done by people like Stanislav Grof in the 70s and earlier in the 60s, but then they stopped all sorts of psychedelic research. And just recently, in the last 10 years, they've experimented in places like Johns Hopkins University in the United States on many people with measured amounts of psychedelic drugs. And what they're finding is basically you can't overdose on this stuff. There's no amount that's going to kill you, like say if you took, say, opiates or most other drugs. It's very safe, but you can't just give someone a whole lot of at the same time if their brain's not ready for it. You have to make someone's brain ready for it. So once this is done, most people who receive it don't instantly go, I want this again. It's not like an addictive thing. They go, wow, this was one of the most profound, life-shattering, life-changing things that's ever happened to me, and I'm a better person as a result of it. That's what most people are finding when they do the research on it, right? And what they found was when they analyzed people's brains on psychedelics, what the psychedelic substances seem to do is it turns off part of your brain, which is very funny because most people, when they take psychedelics, say, oh wow, everything's happening. It seems like so many things are going on. But the surprising result was when you analyze a person on psychedelic drugs and you see their brainwave patterns, it seems like a whole part of the brain shuts down, quietens. But the part of the brain that quiets is a very special place, which they call the default center. The center where we go to when we're just sitting quietly, thinking by ourselves. And it's this place, apparently, that we have the thoughts of past and future. It's the place where we reflect on ourselves as individuals. And it seems like psychedelics turn this place off. So that when you're on an intense psychedelic experience, like ayahuasca, like a 60s LSD experience or a magic mushroom experience, people appear to be not thinking past or future, they live totally in the present moment. And they're not thinking about their place in the universe, they're more like totally connected to universe. And this brainwave patterning that seems to appear with people on psychedelic drugs repeatedly, and it's been shown with scientific studies over the last 10 years, the only other place they see this type of brainwave pattern is in profound meditators. And so it seems like what my Tibetan Lama told me was that basically by taking psychedelic drugs, it gives you a doorway into accessing what real yoga could give you. I'm not advocating the use of psychedelic drugs, it's just interesting to see how this is.
Oh yeah.
So in the yoga texts, it says that you actually do create psychedelics inside the pineal gland. It's believed that the psychedelic that we do produce inside ourselves is related to DMT, dimethyltryptamine, produced in our pineal gland. Dimethyltryptamine is a very, very powerful psychedelic, and if you took it and you crystallized it, the first person to crystallize it had it in a test tube, and it got stuck inside the test tube. So they tried to get a chisel to chisel it out, and when they tried to chisel it out, it started to spark. If you take a quartz crystal and you hit it with a hammer, it makes a white light. Mm-hmm. This is called phosphofluorescence. It's called, it's a special name. Crystals will transduce energy. They change one energy to another type of energy. Mm-hmm. And so crystals that you hit in a cigarette lighter will translate mechanical energy into light energy. But crystals which were used in World War I, World War II would make crystal radio sets. So if you attach a crystal to a speaker, you can pick up radio signals from a crystal. It's crystal radios. So there's speculation that the DMT produced in our pineal gland, if it's left there enough in the right time and place, is receiving energetic signals from other places, maybe other times, maybe other consciousnesses, other realms, who knows what. And somehow the energy is being transduced by the DMT crystals in the brain, and the crystals are sending out light. But when you hit a DMT crystal, it's not white light that comes off, it's fully rainbow colored light. And so when it comes out the right way, if it's tuned properly, it probably sends out pictures. So when you turn a television on, if it's not tuned to a channel, it sends out white light, static. But if you tune it to a channel, you get television pictures. Yeah. So if we can tune the DMT crystals to the right place and it's hit by the right external stimulus, external energies, this may be the source of the light that illuminates our dreams and our visions. And all the extrasensory perception and all the visualizations could be coming, and also the hallucinations you might get from ayahuasca.
Hence the name enlightenment.
Enlightenment, yes. You see, the pineal gland, which is our third eye gland,
yeah.
It's called a third eye because it looks like the structure of our eye. So our eye, the two eyes, have got rods and cones in the back of the eyes. And these rods and cones are structures which are designed to pick up light and transmit that light to the brain and convert it to a signal which the brain interprets as images. Surprisingly, the pineal gland has the same structure. It's got rods and cones. But why would there be rods and cones in the middle of a structure in the middle of our brain that receives no light? Unless the light is being made there by electromagnetic or other energies that are coming into a pineal gland, triggering and hitting the DMT crystals, creating the light, and that light is being put onto our third eye retina, and that's being transmitted as images to our brain. So what they say in the yoga texts is that the purpose of our yoga practice is to connect with source, to connect with universal consciousness. And maybe this is one of the things that allows us to do it. But it says to do this, what you have to do is to prevent what they call soma, which is possibly this DMT type substance produced in the third eye chakra or pineal gland, from being destroyed by what they call the gastric fire. Now the gastric fire is our digestive juices. Yeah. One of those digestive juices is a substance called monoamine oxidase. And a monoamine oxidase is capable of destroying DMT. DMT is this highly psychedelic substance formed in our pineal gland. It's also present in most plants, and it's also the active ingredient of the South American liquid which they call ayahuasca, which the shamans give out to help enlighten people. Now, the reason ayahuasca works is because the DMT that is drunk is allowed to become active inside the body because the ayahuasca plant destroys the The ayahuasca plant has a chemical inside it called a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which destroys the enzymes in our stomach, which normally would destroy the DMT. So by eating two plants together, one plant containing DMT and one plant containing a substance that destroys the enzymes that would destroy the DMT in our tummy, the DMT becomes extremely potent inside ourselves. So this is done as a plant medicine. But what the yoga text suggests is that somehow we can do this by ourselves. Somehow we can destroy the enzymatic destruction of the DMT inside our stomach and utilize our own DMT. And so somehow this is maybe the aim of Hatha Yoga. Now many people experience a drug-like effect after doing practice, but it's not always the drugs we want. You see, a lot of people finish practice and they go, wow, I feel amazing, I'm on a yogic or pranic high. And you go, hold on, what have you been doing? Because if they've been overstretching, over-tensing, over-breathing, over-thinking in their practice, or not thinking at all and maybe doing dangerous things, they've probably been overstimulating the flight or fight response. Over-breathing will cut the blood supply to the brain. That's why 10 deep breaths make you dizzy. And it leaves you with a bit of a marijuana effect. Just go, woo, woo, woo.
Yeah.
Yeah? And if you overstretch, over-tense, you overstimulate your adrenal glands. And with that, you stimulate the secretion of cortisol and adrenaline, which are a bit like coffee and cocaine. And at the same time, you will secrete what's called endorphins, endogenous morphine. So often a person who overtenses, overstretch, overbreathes in an exercise or yoga-like exercise practice will end up feeling, wow, I feel amazing. But you don't want to let these people get into a car because they're like a person on drugs. It's not pranic high, it's just a person who's stoned on their body's own marijuana, cocaine, caffeine, heroin at the same time.
Happens a lot.
It happens a lot, you know? So someone who really would be in yoga would be the person who is totally clear, grounded, connected to source, connected with a loving conscious awareness to all things, and be physically healthy, physically capable, totally grounded, light. You'd sense an aura come off them. Animals will probably gather around them. And there are people like this. You know, and unlimited experience I've had. If I'm practicing well, the mosquitoes won't bite me. Animals will come near me. It doesn't happen as much as a good lama does, you know, but I've got teachers where they have wild animals come and sit next to them while they're practicing. And I think this is what we're looking for, a sense that our practice is making us connected with everything around us, a sense that we're not separate, but we're connected, that samadhi is a state where object and subject is one. And so to make that happen inside your body somehow, and to actually have this sense that we're not connected, that's what we're looking for. The drug-like effect could simulate it, but it's more than just having this pineal gland awareness, I think. You've got to really feel energy moving through your body. You've got to really feel calm, and somehow it relates to the brainwave patterns as well happening. So you really need a dual left-right brain equality, and most of our life is too much left brain, not enough right brain. Left brain is more thinking, right brain's more feeling, and many people are imbalanced. Children are equal, but most adults are often too left brain, and they're too rational, not feeling enough. Some adults are too much right brain, not logical, you know? You need both. And so a practice which is going to bring you to balance is going to be really good. A practice which allows blood to flow without causing a flight or fight response is good. A practice which allows the default center of the brain to calm down and for you to feel a connection in the present moment, that would be good. And all of this is the path of real yoga.
So can you say, for example, I know that there are people who think, you know, they have to do the practice as we see it, for example, I don't know, in books or
yes,
in videos and everywhere. But I'm thinking, you know, like if you, for example, if you relate with whatever practice is, for example, like in Zen, you know, drawing or writing, calligraphy, yeah.
Yes.
Or you relate with dance, or you relate with whatever practice that might induce what you said, might induce blood flow and the moving of information.
Yes, a meditative state where you've got blood flow,
exactly.
energy, and
So
information.
whatever that practice is doesn't have to be yoga practice as we know it from yoga books. Can be anything,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So whatever gives you what you were talking about, that can be considered a practice of yoga.
Yes, yes.
As long as it puts you in that
moves
state.
energy, it circulates energy and loving information through your body and allows your body to sense a connection with the external world. I think that would be giving yoga. And the physiological traits of real meditation as defined by that would be good blood flow with low heart rate and hardly any breathing, and a sense of profound calmness and connection. I think those things would be enough. But it's not enough to just have a calm body. You have to have energy flowing. It's not enough to have energy, it has to be calming energy. And it has to be clear. And you have to feel that you're not just the center of the universe, you are one with the universe. I think, and any activity could do that. And as you say, it could happen in dance, it could happen in martial arts, it could happen in calligraphy, it could happen in pretty much anything. But once it becomes stressful, you lose it. Once it becomes apathetic, you lose it.
So well, if we talk like this, then the idea of the idea of yoga, it's like it broads up, doesn't get restricted, to a certain practice that we see, like I said, in books or in a video.
Yes.
Whatever we consider now in our modern world being yoga.
Yes.
Like, for example, for me, it's like before there wasn't too much information that people had access to, so all these things were hidden.
Yes.
Or they were like meant to be just for initiates.
Yes.
Now everybody have access to it.
Yes.
But there's so much information and people just got so confused about it, because we end up with a practice that's it's the same difference between having like really, really good, awesome coffee and some seven-hand coffee,
Yes, yes.
Something like that. This is how I feel it. So I think it's really important to make people understand this, to get out from this. It's like a trap, the trap of asana.
Yes, yes. The trap of asana. Yes.
So, from your experience, how can you? I mean, what's the best way to educate people, or ways, or how the hell can we do, to reach more people with these truths, or to make people connect with these truths?
As a physiotherapist, I'm trying to get rid of this very, very dangerous paradigm, which is coming from research done in Australia in the 1980s, where they discovered that a person with a bad back, if they looked at a person with a bad back, they found that a person with a bad back would tend to not tighten their abdomen the right way. And they said that they compared a person with bad back, a person with good back. A person with good back would have three events. First event is, I think I'm going to pick up a heavy object. Second event is their lower abdomen would engage. Third event is they'd reach to grab the object, pick it up. They noticed that a person with a bad back was having the same three events, but in a different order. They would think, I want to pick up heavy object, first event. Second event, their hand reaches for the object. Third event was their tummy engages. And they said, this is the difference. The only difference between a person with a good back and a bad back is not that they've got stronger abdomen or stronger back. It's when the abdominal muscles switch on. So what they said was the person with the good back tends to engage their lower abdomen before they reach. So they said to people, if you've got a bad back, what you should do is pull your lower abdomen in before you reach to grab something. And this seemed to give some results. So then it went all around the world, and they said everyone should pull their lower abdomen inwards before they move. But it was only meant to be for people with bad backs. Normal people were already doing the right thing. But by telling everyone to do it, people overdid it. And then what they also did was they started to use the wrong muscles to pull in the lower abdomen. And they pull in the upper abdomen. And what they did with this over-tensing was that they actually locked the spine, caused more back pain, more neck pain, more dysfunction in the internal organs. They inhibit the diaphragm, turn off your immune system, cause a lot of stress, and make a lot of people feel very insecure. And this was probably the worst thing in the scientific community that's affected more people over a longer period of time than anything else. Now this happened from Australian physiotherapists in the 1980s. Luckily, by about the year 2000, they realized, I think we're making people too tense. So Australian physiotherapists around year 2000 stopped telling people to do this, because they realized when they studied with real-time ultrasound that actually to pull the lower abdomen in using the transverse abdominis muscle, which is something you hear everyone talk about, only 1 in 20 people can do. And that when you tell most people to pull the lower abdomen in, most people just add stress to their life. And they cause dysfunction of the pelvic floor, internal organs. But unfortunately, by the time the Australian physiotherapists realized that they were giving out not that good information, even though it was based on good research, it was too late. The information was out in the world, and it's still out there. So you hear it in gyms, you hear it in Pilates classes, you hear it in yoga classes. Pull your tummy in, engage the core. And actually, healthy people, children, natural people, don't even think about the core. They breathe naturally, they move from their core, they breathe from their core. It's what we do when we're asleep, we breathe from our core. But this whole stuff that's been going has really stuffed people up. Now, to make it worse, the advanced yoga says you should breathe up into the chest. And actually, the lungs are a little bit like a holograph of the whole body. So it's like, you see the reflexology of the feet. The toes represent the head, heel represents the bottom of the feet. The inside of your feet represent the spine. So feet together are like a map of the whole body. Same in your ears, same in your eyes. You have a map of the whole body. Well, the lungs are like this as well. We have the holographic lungs. So the uppermost lobes of the lungs represent your highest chakras. The lowest lobes of the lungs represent lowest chakras. And of course, if you're trying to open your chakras, it's like trying to fill a glass of water. If you really want a full glass of water, you have to fill the bottom of the glass, then the middle, then the top. That's called a full glass.
Yeah.
But what most people are doing is they're hearing that we're supposed to fill up the top. So what they do is they inhibit the diaphragm, lock it when they pull their navel to the spine, can't use their diaphragm, and then just breathe into the top. Now what this gives is not an opening of the heart center, it just gives back pain and emotional problems. Because really, if it was that easy to open your higher centers, why wasn't everyone doing it before? It's actually very, very difficult to open the higher chakras. So the real art, before you open the chest, is to open the pelvic floor, to open the lower abdomen, to breathe into pelvic floor, lower abdomen, and then the complete yogic breath then has to bring the chest opening afterwards, which is much, much harder. But this is what people heard, so they went for the easy version, which is to pull the navel to the spine and just open the chest. Unfortunately, those two things, the advent of the notion that breathing in the chest was good, and the advent of the notion that pulling the navel to the spine was good, in combination, the combination with the impression that Western yoga was one thing, that physiotherapy said something, made that this quite bad thing started to happen. So most people now are actually doing a lot of dysfunction to their body by breathing deeply into the chest and breathing out to the abdomen. All it's doing is causing this drug effect, which is hyperventilation to the brain and oversensitization of the nervous system. Luckily, there are a few people like yourself who I see as sincere practitioners who've taken the time, who do what Pattabhi Jois taught in a sincere practice way. You do proper vinyasa, you apply drishti, and you apply Udhiana and Mula Bandha in practice. But what does Udhiana and Mula Bandha mean? Anatomically, most people don't understand it. I could go into a whole rave about what it must mean based on all the research and all the ancient studies. But the people who really know Mula Bandha and Udhianabanda are the ones who practice, like yourself, because you feel it. But when you hear about Mula Bandha and Udhianabanda, it confuses most people. They think it's just the same as core stability. You hear people saying, Udhianabanda is tightening the upper abdomen. Whereas patently every yoga text who shows Udhianabanda apart from the recent Ashtanga treatises say Udhianabanda is an expansion of the chest as if inhaling but not inhaling, with the abdomen very, very soft and the chest massively expanded. Texts like that you see in the back of Iyengar's Light on Yoga. Mula Bandha, according to the old texts, is the perineum engagement, not the anus, not the genitals, but perhaps because Pattabhi Jois was not good at English, he would just say tighten anus. But books like Mula Bandha, the Master Key, coming from Satyananda Bihar school ashrams, these ones, they clearly say anus is Ashwini Mudra, and that's not going to help you with Mula Bandha. Mula Bandha is the perineum. So there's a lot of confusion, but when you really get it, then what I said before about engaging the lower abdomen relates to Mula Bandha. When the lower abdomen, lower transverse abdominis engages without the upper abdomen, that will trigger an activation of the perineum, which is not the anus, not the genitals. It also triggers an activation of the multifidus, small lower back muscles, which stabilize the spine. This is all in tune with modern scientific physiotherapy research. But it's not what most people can do. Most people haven't got that control, and so most people attempting that control just cause stress. So what I came to after many years of teaching is that if people are not sincere practitioners like yourself, then they're better off just breathing naturally. And instead of trying to tighten their core, move actively from the core while breathing naturally. And if they simply move actively from their cores, breathing naturally, then they get a closer effect to what real yoga should be, I believe, as opposed to what most exercise is. The core in yoga, in Indian yoga, is called the Kunda. And the Kunda, according to Indian yoga, is the region which is directly between Manipura chakra, represented on the outside by the navel, and Swadhisthana chakra, represented on the front by the pubic bone. Between the two, inside, is the Kunda. And it's meant to be the source of 72,000 nadis. The correlating place in the Chinese world is called Dantian. And that's where all the acupuncture meridians start from. It's the energy center which all martial artists work from. In Japan, they call it the center of the hara, called the tanden. They have a name for it in almost every traditional culture, including Aboriginal Australian cultures and other cultures around the world. This is pretty much the essence of the lower abdomen in physiotherapy sense. It's also the center of what in the West is known to be the enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system is a plexus of nerves. And nadis are like nerves in a way. And the nerves are a bunch of nerves coming from the autonomic or automatic nervous system. There's more nerves in the enteric nervous system wrapped around your intestines than there is nervous tissue in your spinal cord. There's more nervous tissue in this enteric nervous system than there is inside a cat's brain. Cats are smart. So this is your action brain. And my teachers would say, this is your thinking brain in your skull, but if you want to move, you have to do it via the action brain. The action brain means everything has to translate through here, which is like what the physiotherapists discovered, that every movement has to start from your core. And this is when you observe a natural person, when you observe an animal, when you talk to martial artists, when you talk to natural movement specialists, everything has to start from here, including your breath, including chakra awakening, including any movement, any power exertion. But if you cannot use your diaphragm, you block it. And unfortunately, most people are blocking it. And when you block it, you feel stress. You don't feel loving information. You feel panic, fear, aggression, lack of trust. And I think the world is too full already of panic, fear, aggression, lack of trust. And what we want is yama and niyama. And yama and niyama say not non-violence, it says opposite of violence, gentle. Not non-stealing, opposite of stealing, giving. Not non-attachment, opposite of attachment, freedom. Find inside yourself freedom. Not brahmacharya, don't have illicit sex, have appropriate connection. So appropriate connection doesn't have to be sexual, it's just about the connection. Yeah. And the more you enhance connection, the better. And, saucha is not just clean, it means get rid of the things that block energy. So what blocks energy? Too much tension, too much stretching, too much breathing, too much thinking, too much eating. So saucha to me is tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less. But svadhyaya means finding out what's going on the inside. Ishvara pranidhan means doing it in a loving way. Finding the connection in a loving way, to share it through your body in a really gentle, loving way. And this, I think, is the balance that we can call yoga. It's possible to do, but we have to get rid of all this notion that we have to try so hard, that we have to suffer. This Protestant work ethic, the idea that if you're good, you're going to go to heaven, if you're bad, you're going to go to hell. And being good means you've got to work hard. You have to suffer a little bit. Iyengar said, tapas is not suffering. Tapas is doing your passion. compassionate best, subject to ahimsa, being gentle.
Yeah.
But in the West, we think often you've got to suffer. No pain, no gain. It's a motto you still surprisingly hear. But obviously, no pain, no brain. You know, it's more likely you're going to cause problems if you cause pain. Stretch is the step a little bit closer to pain. Pain is the step closer to injury. But if I say that to people, they go, what do you mean, don't stretch? We've got to get flexible. So what about, can you get flexible without stretching? Yes. The path is to move actively from your core with natural breathing. And I say, tense less, but we've got to get strong. I say, no, you can still get strong, but do it in a way where you don't feel tense. How are you going to do that? Move actively from the core with natural breathing and flow. I say, make your heart beat less. We need to improve circulation. Yes, it's called cardiovascular work. Less cardio, more vascular. Make the blood move without the heart racing. It's what fit people do. How are you going to do that? The heart's only one of 12 ways to move blood through the body. Intelligent yoga uses the other 11 ways. And then once you've got all this, there's the possibility that you can be a super fit, super flexible, super strong person that generates lots of energy, can share the energy with other people, and does it in a really loving way between them and other people, because in their own body, they're making the model of moving energy in a loving way inside their body by allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to dominate, which is rest, rejuvenation, regeneration, like when you're asleep, but being totally awake, totally alert, and able to share the voluminous amount of energy they're generating. But it has to happen inside yourself before you can give it to other people.
Totally, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting discussion, and thanks a lot for sharing all this valuable information with.
It's just such a
with
pleasure
everybody.
to have someone who's prepared to listen to it a little bit. Thank you for your
Hopefully,
patience.
more and more people will be.
It's only a short taste, because to really understand this, I would really have to make you feel it in a practice. And it's so nice that we've been working together for so long, because I see in your body, because you've got a few years less than I've got, your body's in pretty good shape, and I see your practice to be beautiful. And you've been using some of the stuff I said over the last many
Starts
years.
to be, from my experience and my practice, starts to be more and more basic, you know, like no more fancy stuff, and just stay to the least stressful things.
Yes.
And just keep it basic, but keep it like you said, you know, like keep it somehow deep, but easy. That helps.
It's tricky. That's what I was saying to you before. If you're looking for the opposing things that make yoga come together, what makes yoga union is always a resolution of seemingly opposing ideas. So, can you do a stressful thing? Anyone can. But can you be relaxed while doing it? Yes. It's easy to do stress by itself or relaxation by itself. But to do relaxation while doing stressful activity, that's the yoga. To do a stressful activity while being relaxed. Problem is, most people emphasize too much stress and not enough relax. The relax means your body's in a state of bliss. So you gradually increase the stress subject to being relaxed. And then when we think about meditation, which most people think is different to yoga, it's not just be relaxed in doing the same things. Because often meditation is too boring for people. I'm bored just sitting here doing nothing. It's, can you do a repetitive thing, like do the same thing, but not get bored? And most people will force themselves, they'll do the same thing, but they'll be bored. So how boring can you make your practice while still being excited? How stressful can you make your practice subject to still being relaxed? And it's the union of those opposing ideas in balance that makes the yoga. And the other one I like to say is, how miserable can your life get while still being able to choose happiness? Because in the end, the notion of santosha is not just being content with how you are, it's being able to choose that whatever you're feeling is what you want to feel. If you want to feel miserable, you can choose misery. If you want to choose happiness, you should be able to choose happiness. And the advanced practitioner should be able to always be happy no matter how miserable the situation on the outside is, including their living environment, including the state of their body, to the point that even death is not an object, even physical pain. But it's too hard for the average person. So rather than giving pain and going, I can tolerate it, but not really enjoying it, pick misery in a gentle way in your yoga practice, in a way that you can still enjoy it. Pick stress in a gentle way so you can still enjoy it. Pick boredom in your practice in a little way so you can enjoy it. But don't make it too stressful, don't make it too boring, don't make it too miserable in the beginning unless you're enjoying it. And as you get better, you can do more intense things which are more boring, more intense, more miserable, but still you're going, fuck it. But no matter what, I am still enjoying it and I'm still in bliss. And best is, of course, to be mentally in bliss, physiologically in bliss, and physically in bliss, so there's absolutely no damage to your physical or physiological or mental bodies afterwards. But most people, with the practices they're doing, are making it too stressful sometimes, too boring other times, too miserable other times, and it just makes them feel miserable. And that's what puts off most people from the practice. And they stop doing it.
Yeah.
Or they do it for a little bit, and then their body says you can't do it anymore. The joints start to go, the internal organs go, the brain starts to go. We don't want that. If you want enlightenment, it's not going to happen overnight. I figure we've got to live for many, many more decades, maybe hundreds of years before, I know a person like me, I'm not going to get enlightened overnight. I need another couple of hundred years. If I can live here a couple of hundred years, I'll get closer to it. So I'm working on living long and making sure that everything I do doesn't cause quicker death, causes longer life. And I'm enjoying my life on my mat so that then I can share that enjoyment with the people I meet after I'm off my mat.
Great. It's
Thank
nice.
you very, very much.
It's nice to have it shared.
Bless you. Thank you very, very, very
Thanks
much.
a lot, Sam.
And thank you very much for listening.
Bien, amigos, espero que pronto alguien me va a ayudar a traducir eso porque me parece un material muy interesante para todos los que sois ahí practicantes de yoga y que os interesa utilizar esa práctica maravillosa en su forma verdadera. Entonces, espero que os ayude esta charla. Voy a hacer más con más gente que yo admiro muchísimo. Y bien, y espero que nos vamos a ver pronto. Thanks a lot, Simon. It was a real pleasure to have you.
Wow, it's my pleasure. Thank you very, very much.